So for our last Enter the Geek Baby submission, we'll be talking about Module 8, which is Chapter 8 in the book. Um, I'll go ahead and start with the need for evidence. So I definitely feel like uh, there is definitely a need. As human beings, we definitely it is in our nature to try to prove things, to try to justify things, and we need everything that can support whatever it is that we're going towards. That's in our nature to need. So everything that the module is talking about is very important. We're really unable to just go through life in general without evidence of things. How are we we really just can't, accomplish anything if we don't know that one thing works or that it's valid. Like the referring to the text, it says, because it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to establish the absolute truth or falsity of most claims, rather than asking whether they are true, we prefer to ask whether they are dependable. Um, Fast forward a little bit. The greater the quality and quantity of evidence supporting a claim, the more we can depend on it, and the more we can call the claim a fact. So, which is what evidence is. Um, there's literally not only is it just in human nature that we need evidence, but to progress as a society, to progress as people, without having evidence that something works, we would never be able to, move forward. So, like the text is saying, for example, abundant evidence exists that George Washington was the first president of the United States of America. That apparently is a fact. Um, but if you get on social media, there are all sorts of things swirling saying that the first president of the United States of America was George Washington's slave. Though, so the fact that we don't have any evidence supporting that, that it is. But people will come up. I'm not saying I don't believe it, but I don't say I don't. I'm not saying I do believe it because we have no evidence to prove that.
But we have evidence that proves otherwise. That
we
George
do.
Was, we have signatures. We see, even though everything's paintings, everybody didn't have pictures, but you had an idea. We have to do more of our own research too, as well.
Definitely, as far as that goes.
To actually, that's why the questions you got to ask certain questions. How do you know if it's true, or why do you believe that? It's good. You have to, when you're reading or even talking to people on like social media, which is really good to do for me. That actually helps me work on my critical thinking. When I go on Facebook or go on talk to anybody about politics or whatever, I ask them for evidence, or because I may know something they may not know, and I ask them evidence, and that it may sway me, may not. That's the whole point.
Alrighty. Then intuition as evidence. So this was a very big discussion in our class about intuition, where TC was saying that the way I interpret is that she really didn't believe in it because it's, as the text says as well, it's just not really dependable. To me, though, I have to negate that. Though I do understand where she was coming from, and it does make sense to an extent. I feel like dependability is always like an exercise. It's something that can be exercised. So if every time I pick up this water bottle, it stays intact, it stays this shape, then I'm never going to assume that it'll be anything else. I can every time I see it, it is like this. So I feel like it is dependable because every single time I assume that it's going to be this shape, it is. I feel like that's the same as like intuition. If I if my intuition tells me something, and every time that that is shown in some sort of way, or it's it's shown, or it's made known to be true, then I feel like that intuition can also be dependable as well.
What about on like something that first, like you first see it, like you
Mm-hmm.
could just get a hunch about something. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, I know you made an example of somebody at work that
Right.
you work with, that you just have a hunch when they come in that if they're gonna be a good worker or they're gonna cause a problem around here and they're gonna mess up the efficiency or whatever the case may be.
Right.
You know, you'll get that hunch.
Absolutely.
But when you go, like they said, when you have further experience in it, I don't think do you really call it intuition after that if you have the experience?
What else would it be if not intuition?
Well, it really does. You're right. Because instinct.
I feel like instinct and intuition kind of go hand in hand, though. Do they not?
Can. That's a very good question. That's what serious.
I'm
See,
going to pull up the textbook definition of it, though. So, instinct is an innate, typically fixed pattern of behavior in animals in response to certain stimuli, or a natural or intuitive way of acting or thinking. And the textbook definition of intuition is the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. Okay. So they're similar, but they definitely are different. Just reading that too just kind of brought everything full circle, because a lot of what TC was saying was like you would more so be forcing. So like when we were talking about getting some, or having an intuition about someone and their behavior or whatever, um, she was saying that you're pretty much forcing them to behave that way because you've already put them in that box, and that's how they're going to be. So the fact that this is saying without the need for conscious reasoning, that's not really where my train of thought was going as far as intuition for me. I feel like I'm not saying all the time, and I think this definitely has increased now that I have gone through this critical thinking course. Um, if I feel my intuition about, if my intuition pings about someone, um, that does not mean that I'm going to have to, just cut them off. I won't deal with them nothing, or I'm going to force them to behave in the way that I figured that they would. I see it more as I may keep my distance some, but allow things to go as they please. I'm not going to do anything or say anything to kind of be like, I don't think I should deal with you because I just have a feeling that you just aren't a good person, or whatever the case may be. So that was actually interesting to read, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, one thing with intuition with me is like when I work, like last night, we had a little incident, but I just sensed something with that certain person was gonna go down, and I just kept my eye on. Something just told me, "Hey, keep your eye on this guy."
I feel like that was instinct though.
But see, but when I first started, even when I can remember times when I first got started working, doing security and bouncing in clubs, that I would just feel it because we used to be the ones back in my army days. I would really see it because I'd be involved in it, so it'd be a little bit different. But when you see it from the outside, it's just oh, you just see what you can catch them right. Who's got a look on their eye? As soon as you can. To me, I can just see it immediately. I'm like, oh, I already see that guy right there.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna be a problem this evening. So just keep an eye on him, and I go talk to communicate inside. And sure enough, 9 times out of 10, not every time now. I can be wrong.
I feel like 9 times out of 10 though,
But nine
that's
times out of 10, I'm
dependable.
right.
That is dependable.
I would say even 8 out of 10.
That's still dependable.
Still
Odds
still
are odds are high
yeah.
that your intuition is valid and it's dependable. So, um, at least the intuition part, that definitely ties into module 7 with like how, for the most part, everyone in the class, we were all on the same page as far as intuition. And so we assumed that, everyone probably feels the same way. Everyone like listens to their intuition and they acknowledge it. And when TC came back, we were all like, whoa, no, we didn't think about that. Like that was mind blowing for, I think, all of us, her point of view. So it definitely was an assumption that everyone um, thought the same way when it came to intuition. So as far as testimonials as evidence, I think initially initially going through this, I felt like testimonials are like they're solid evidence because me being religious again, I'm bringing this up. At church, my grandfather is a pastor, so at church he would always, once he gave his word, the word that was put on him, he would always ask for people to come up to the altar and give their testimony. So they would come up and they would tell such inspiring and profound stories about what God has done for them. And then so I would always hold those dear in my mind and in my heart, like because I know if it happened for them, of course it's gonna happen for me too. So I can kind of see where, or as I've grown older, I've learned as well that just because one thing happens for one person, that definitely does not mean it's going to happen for the next. It doesn't matter your belief, it doesn't matter your dedication, it doesn't matter any of these external forces that we're trying to justify as being the reason why it should happen for us too. So on one hand, I do find that testimonials are good evidence, but I think for the most part, um, it's not solid evidence because, again, that doesn't necessarily mean what I have, or just from my experience and what I've seen, and I received something, so that means Patrick can get it too. So
Yeah, I've had incidents with testimonials, like somebody tell me, "Oh man, I do this." Like for you, if you want to get a job to be a contractor,
ooh, that's a good one.
you gotta follow this and do that, and turn your resume into this person, and make sure you have this on. You know, it was a whole bunch of stuff. So everything I tried everything, and it just didn't work out, and I was getting frustrated. And um, with as far as critical thinking goes too, like when I have a research paper I'm doing, and this made me right here make me make sure I get even evidence that's not from necessarily personal, personal experience, because that's personal for them. Like she said, it it may not happen
Right.
consistently with
Doesn't
other
always
people.
apply.
It's just because one person did it, 5 other people may have not experienced that. So it makes it not really dependable. So you can't really use testimonials
Right.
all the time in that kind of situation.
Yeah, I think testimonials are more so for hope.
Yeah.
It just gives you hope. Nothing
Yeah.
solid, but it's definitely uplifting to think like, oh, maybe it can happen to me too. So, right. So, the last little piece that we'll talk about is the appeal to authority as evidence. So, um, the appeal to authority in itself is a fallacy, which ties into module 5. So, I think as a whole, granted, we do know that even fallacious statements can be true, um, especially after going through module 5. I'm probably not going to want to hear anything as soon as I identify that your evidence is an appeal to authority. Maybe that's just me personally, but um, it's not. I don't find that would be legitimate anymore. Um, the example that was in module 5 was every expert says that drinking half a gallon of orange juice per day is good for you. Therefore, you should drink half a gallon of OJ a day. No one wants to hear that.
Not only that is you can really tell that's like, well, who else said this? What
Hmm.
other evidence do you have that another person said this? And that's why I even do that. I think that's a natural thing.
Definitely.
It has to be a natural instinct for a person,
Definitely.
like intuition. Just a natural thing. Like, hold up, man. How you gonna drink a half gallon of orange juice? You know how sick that is, man. Especially if you know stuff about stuff. You know, well, the doctor said this. Well, maybe he said, let me do. That's why athletes. That's a perfect example of why athletes do second opinions on injuries. They get a doctor's opinion from their team doctor, then they go outside that team and find a professional outside to either get the same diagnosis or say something different. And 9 times out of from what I've seen, a lot of the athletes actually follow what the outside doctor does because, I mean, the doctors are kind of favorable for the team. They just try to get them back on the field, to produce.
Hmm.
Compared to this doctor, like, hey, my man, you need to sit out for a few
Right.
weeks.
Who's actually
You know
worried
what I'm
about
saying?
their
Who's worried about their
well-being?
well-being?
Hmm.
These people are, trying to make money off it, you know? So, yeah, there we go.
And that concludes our last module or our last Age of the Geek Baby submission.
Hooray.
Woo! Bye.